See, I saw that there was a Rutgers address. Is that where you
Yeah.
work?
hmm I work
Nice.
at the Rutgers Makerspace. I manage our makerspace.
What is that? I'm not
Uh,
familiar. Oh,
we're a 10,000 square foot facility with all kinds of stuff. We have a full wood shop. We have 3D printers, laser cutters, 10 needle commercial embroidery machine, UV printer, just a whole bunch
oh,
of things where the Rutgers community, faculty, staff, students can come and make things, whether it's for a class project or if it's just something entrepreneurial or, hey, I want to make a gift for my friends or my family. So people come in and use it for all kinds of things.
I know I saw the Rutgers logo when I opened the Zoom and I was like, oh, it's not too far away.
I'm looking around trying to see if there's anything nearby that I could show you. I guess the cool thing would be this vase. So
oh, wow.
it's a 3D
Whoa.
printed vase. We do some pretty cool things. We've had students make guitars.
Oh, wow.
So that all sounds that's all sounds fun and amazing. Anything that tangible, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm currently in the process of making Halloween decorations because I'm super big into Halloween. So I'm CNCing tombstones out of foam.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. Halloween's my birthday, so I also agree it's the best holiday out
Nice.
there.
I was born on April Fool's Day.
Do you get a lot of like
That's a
bad
good one.
jokes?
Oh, the pranks are like prime. Because I mean, working in like, an industry with a bunch of dudes, a lot of the time it's just like a bunch of little things that'll happen.
Yeah.
There'll be tape on the bottom of the mouse, or they'll misplace my lunch, or.
So hi everybody, thanks for doing this call with me. So I am the Audi Club of North America, New Jersey chapter secretary. I help run our New Jersey, Delaware chapter, and I fill in where I can whenever something local is going on with national, which is actually where I met Andrea. Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea. It rhymes
Okay.
with Schmandria, which is a word you use a lot.
Okay.
So
Perfect. I know a little bit about some of you. We'll start there.
I guess I'll jump in first very quickly. So my name's Nathan Brown. I'm the event director for FCP Euro, so work in the marketing department. Been here since early 2019, and in the automotive industry since it's kind of the late 90s, early 2000s. I've worked in the Volkswagen Audi aftermarket starting in around 2002.
At
Been from
FCP or elsewhere?
No, elsewhere at a shop called NGP, New German Performance. So there's
Yep.
two locations, one's in Maryland, one's in Virginia. So I was one of the first sort of non-owner employees, I guess, that worked in the office there. So I did sales, I did service, service writing, parts, helped develop their first e-commerce store, did computer upgrades like software upgrades on cars, soldered ECUs, ran the dyno, et cetera. And I did everything there before eventually going to FCP Euro.
Cool.
So I'm Christine Pfleckl, and I am the SVP of Supply Chain at FCP Euro, and I joined, it will be a year in July, and my background is supply chain in many different areas, from consumer electronics at Sony to most recently at Perry's Inc., the razor company that grew. I did have one previous stint in automotive for a body cloth and headliner manufacturer called Guilford Mills, who is bought by Lear, so seating and electrical component giant. Here I manage from sourcing, planning, product, the logistical side, to our actual fulfillment and distribution centers as well. Or the team does. I don't really do much of anything. The team does it, but
I guess I'll go next. My name is Andrea. I am the quality program lead in the customer service department. I have been here at FCP Euro since 2019, so going on 4 years. I used to work at another European e-commerce company in Connecticut, Euro Parts, and then they closed, so I came over here. German and Swedish cars are my bread and butter, usually mostly the Swedish cars, Saabs and Volvos. But I mean, I've been learning and growing. It's been good.
And Nicole?
I'm a bit of a unique role in the industry, but I work as the wellness manager here at FCP Euro. I joined the team. It'll actually be 2 years, 2 days from now. My background is exercise science and health promotion. So I got my master's in public health about, I think it was a week before I started here. But prior to this, I worked in the nonprofit sector doing health and wellness education for people with disabilities. And then I worked at a local city health department doing opioid overdose prevention. So my kind of bread and butter, as Andrea put it, is really in the health promotion, health education field. And I love doing it in the workplace because we all love each other so much that we spend the majority of our time in America at our work. So it's a really great platform to deliver that.
Could you tell me a little bit more about what that means for you there at FCP?
So my role is the first wellness manager that we've had at the organization. So a lot of my time here in the past 2 years has been really figuring out what does workplace wellness look like here? What do we want those priorities to be? So in the first year, a lot of the work was partnering with a wellness vendor to provide wellness solutions like health coaching. We have a platform that all of our team members have access to with a lot of different health and wellness resources. And then internally, we're working right now, really focusing on our management skills. So we are asking and providing mental health first aid training for all of our managers. So teaching them how to identify when the team member is having a mental health challenge, how do you intervene, how do you have that conversation, things like that. I do a lot of collaborations with our safety team. So like this month is safety month. Actually, June is National Safety Month, fun fact. So I'll be offering a CPR and AED training with them for up to 10 of our employees here to participate in. So the scope is broad, but really what it comes down to is how do we educate our team members about wellness? How do we provide them resources to support their wellness? And then how do we have policies and practices that really help them do that?
That's awesome. That's definitely really great to hear that more places are doing things like that. Christine, do you want to tell me a little bit more what exactly like your specific role is now at FCP?
So I manage multiple teams. So let's start with the distribution center. So the physical operation of moving our products. So an order walk comes in the door or comes in through the website. It gets pushed through the system. It goes to the DC. The DC picks, packs, and ships to our customer. But prior to that, we'll place a purchase order for goods and inventory to put in our DCs. So we'll have a team that receives that product. As part of the distribution center operation, we'll have a team that then slots it in the proper location and then replenishes pickable product throughout the DC. And that sits there, inventory management. Getting the physical product to our customers sits in our distribution side. I have another group, which is operations and quality, which they're looking at continuous improvement, ways to evaluate processes, process mapping, that side. They're looking at quality, the quality of our shipments, how do we improve that? And then maintenance facilities, your typical distribution center, building management maintenance. And then they have the other side of the supply chain. So I have a group that starts with planning. So they are working with marketing, with pricing, with our category and catalog management to understand what the demand is for a product. And they are taking that and creating a demand forecast to say how much of what product do we need based on external factors, customer sentiment, historical performance, and statistics. They then take that and hand it over to their counterparts, which are supply planners. And those supply planners are the ones that are optimizing purchase orders to send to our supply base to actually get the product into the DC. So they're purchasing that, they're looking at lead times, they're looking at optimized quantities so we don't have too much or too little at any given time and to manage cash flow. On the other piece of that, then there's a group called vendor relations and strategic sourcing. They are working with the catalog team and also the supply planning team to go out and build a relationship with our supplier base. They are driving the conversations around commercial terms, around pricing, around sales support, optimization, shipment quality, that whole piece, they drive that relationship. Then I also have the inbound logistics group, which basically makes sure that transport is done from the point of supply to our DCs in a really thoughtful, cost-efficient manner where we have good visibility. So it's getting that product here for our customers and all that entails and its complexity and a lot of people, process, technology to do it. It's a different problem to solve every day.
It's a lot of moving parts. Andrea, you're the program lead for the customer service team, right?
Quality program, yes. So basically, I'm the person who listens to the calls for quality and training purposes. We do, our team leads on the customer service team do quality audits of tickets, calls, and emails or chats. And we have a quality rubric that we've designed that makes sure that we are providing the level of service that our customers expect from us. So we go through, we will score the interactions and then coach the agents as we need to make them better and pay more attention to our customers' needs. So I work with the leadership in customer service as well as I work with the agents.
It's kind of fun to finally meet someone who's that, like you said, this may be recorded for quality control. It's fun. It's good to know that those actually go somewhere and it's not just a recording that says that it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we had a framework, but it wasn't complete before I started as the quality program lead. So I kind of helped build this process that we do change our rubric yearly just to make sure that we're on the right path, that we're measuring for the right things. If we have a change in our themes, we want to make sure that customers are still trusting us, and or if we want to lead customers to self-service, trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. So it's really exciting.
So Nate, can you tell us what does FCP stand for?
Sure. It stands for foreign car parts,
Okay.
which I guess seems sort of obvious, but not obvious at all at the same time. So the company was based around a brick and mortar back in 1986. Nick Bauer, our president and co-founder, his parents actually owned that business. And he grew up in the shop, sort of helping customers, learning the system, learning parts, et cetera. And then as he grew up and the internet sort of became a thing and eBay became a thing, he started listing products and selling them on eBay. Volvo is one of our first largest sort of brands for that. And essentially, the eBay sales overtook the brick and mortar sales, and then it launched the first website in 2001, and it sort of eventually grew from there. So the Euro part of it actually came on some years later. The original name was FCP Groton, and there's plenty of customers like Andrea, you probably talk to people all the time that say, oh, I've been shopping since it was fcpgroton.com, et cetera. FCP Euro came around as there was an expansion, and there was at one point in time an FCP import even. So there was a sort of a broadening of scope and then refocusing just on the European car parts and that sort of area of business, which is sort of where we've been the last little while now.
What do you feel sets FCP Euro apart from other companies out there doing the same thing?
For me, the lifetime replacement guarantee is a pretty big one. Obviously, that separates us from a large number of other people. But I think that would be sort of meaningless if we were not really focusing on the other key areas of the business, which is ultimately taking care of the customer, making sure that they're getting good quality parts that they need and that they are useful. As they say, like, in business or in life, really, it's not really a question of like problems. Like, problems will always arise. It's a question of like what sets a different company apart is how they handle those problems. So for us, we have a really, really strong focused customer service, customer experience team, and then we're there to support beyond that with like our DIYs online and our focus on sort of like broadening the knowledge of our customer. There's a whole lot that goes into it. I think it's tough to pinpoint one thing.
Yeah, I think also like the human aspect of our company is really exciting to me. Like, for example, none of our calls are scripted. We don't have like a specific things we need everyone to say, but we also are able to solve deep problems. We have a tech team. They are different from the customer service team. They can dig deeper into maybe you need a related part that's related to what you're purchasing, or you have questions about the difference between OEM and aftermarket or genuine. The way that educating people and just actually talking to someone is something that I think sets us apart, because we're also meeting people where they want to be met, because we added our chat channel in the past year. We've been realizing that people don't often want to wait for an email. It's okay to, to be in the little box on the screen. So I think, the fact that we decide to pay attention to what the customer wants and move from there, I think it's really exciting, and I think that's helpful.
The chat is definitely super helpful when you're right there trying to place the order and you're like, please email us. It's like, well, I want to order now. I don't want to wait for a response to an email.
Yeah.
I might take a different view. I might take the inside the four walls view. I think that is a differentiator in its own. I think there's this level of a true team environment and having a team, a president, a CEO that care deeply about our customers, our teammates, and that goes and is really like the driving basis behind decisions. I think for a lot of people that have joined the company recently, it's a choice. It's always a choice to do that, and that was one of the reasons I joined. You could see it, you could hear it, and you could hear the passion. And there's just a lot of enthusiasts that work here, but you don't have to be, and that's embraced. And there's an openness to constantly do better for each other and for our customers, which is pretty cool. And it's not all about profit dollars. It's really about providing that experience internally and externally, that there's just an unwavering focus, and you don't see that everywhere.
I'd say you don't see that in most places.
Yeah. So it's to be in that environment. It's not for everyone, and that's the reality. Some people don't like that, but for those who are passionate, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Christine, you set me up pretty nicely for my answer that I was going to share. In my role, obviously, I think I have the internal perspective as well. And I heard something a while ago that companies resource what they value. So for a company of our size to resource a full-time person as a wellness manager and put the resources behind supporting our team members in that way. I don't know what all other companies in our industry are doing, but I do think that's unique for the workplaces that I've been at and the fields that I've been in. So I think that's something really valuable that FCP Euro, kind of puts resources behind what they say they want to do, which is care about and support our team members in that way.
What is the Customer Experience Center? I was looking about the history and I noticed that you guys opened that. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that is?
Sure. So the Customer Experience Center opened in 2019. And the theory behind that was sort of somewhat ironically, starting as a brick and mortar, then going just online, our retail sales or a pickup center orders essentially were growing. And we essentially were looking to direct customers to a place that wasn't just the desk in the lobby of the office to pick up their orders. So Alex Frank and some other people in the business sort of had the vision to sort of create this welcoming environment for customers that they could come in, they could self-service if they had already placed an order to be picked up and it was ready, or they could have some assistance there from some people there at the actual pickup center. That was sort of like the basis of it. And then the idea is that, okay, so we're an online company. I think Andrea kind of touched really well on this earlier, where the personality and the people behind our company being visible and connected really like sort of puts us in a different light from some other companies that are larger. We do all these cool things. We have these project cars and we've had race cars and things. So let's open up that space where those are kept and people can come in, they can pick up parts, they can see the kind of cool things that we're doing, meet the people. And for us, it's sort of always a question of inviting people in, bringing people under, past the velvet ropes or whatever you want to call it, where we're not like trying to keep people at bay. We're inviting them in. We're trying to get them as excited as we are about stuff. And that's essentially what the Experience Center is. We've done some other hosting of events and things there, some for our vendors and partners, some for our customers. And although COVID threw a little bit of a wrench into that for a little while, we are probably going to look to probably expand back into that stuff to some extent with some car clubs and some other smaller events and things like that.
So you guys have already started doing this by telling me more about the inside the four walls. Can you tell me a little bit more about the culture there at FCP though?
Having been in the automotive industry myself for quite a long time, and I don't know how other larger companies or other companies really are, but I know in the automotive industry, FCP Euro is an anomaly within an anomaly. Very typical in terms of the approach, in terms of how we are, in terms of our focus and our inclusion and our diversity and everything like that. Like it's one of the reasons that, you know, it was an area, a place where I wanted to work. It, you know, reflected a lot of values that I had. It's really, really cool to be able to have these connections with people throughout the organization, regardless of what level they work at or, you know, their position and things like that.
What's next? Is there anything next that we don't know about that you can tell us about?
Probably not as relevant for you, but we are making one of the biggest moves in FCP history, which is we're very, very close to opening up a new 145,000 square foot facility in Mesa, Arizona. We are expecting to be done with our build out and construction and be able to at least have a temporary occupancy permit and starting to fill our shelves with inventory in beginning of August. It's a huge undertaking. It's going to help us better serve our West Coast customers, get more parts in their hands faster, and improve that experience, and allow us to grow our capacity as well. Plus, it's a great opportunity for us to be in that community in Mesa as well. There's a great automotive and car enthusiast community out there that we want to be a pillar, and we want to help drive some cool community involvement there as well, and also provide a fulfilling employment opportunity to that community as well. But that's huge, and it's taken a lot of work from a lot of different areas, and we're pumped, and we're just starting to make our first hires for that facility. So it's exciting, very exciting.
August, that's right around the corner. What about the new race car?
So we don't technically have any pure race cars at the moment. We are racing the Mercedes-AMG GT4s and IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. We are still the title sponsor of it's now officially the FCP Euro Northeast Grand Prix, presented by Louli at Lime Rock Park. So we are still involved in professional racing it that way. But most of what we've been doing is focused on projects. So we have our Golden Era 190 DTM inspired project. We have a Volvo 850 project. A few other things kind of going on. I think the Volvo was at the Carlisle show, so you probably might have seen that one. So we're really sort of branched out and focusing sort of on build content and things like that. So something for everybody. So we have, you know, aspirational stuff like really semi-exotic builds like the Mercedes, or we have one that's a Mini Cooper that we're doing later this year. That's really sort of like super fundamental, basic, and something that anyone could do essentially.
Andrea, you had mentioned that the women who inspire you are Madonna, Dolly Parton, Angela Davis, Gloria Steinem. Can you tell me a little bit more about why these women inspire you?
They know who they are and they know what they're about. There's no hesitation when you think of those people.
Yeah, awesome. What about you, Nicole? You had mentioned that it was your grandmother?
Yeah, so I when I usually get asked this question, I always think about the people who are closest to me. Like I kind of had a front row view to them my whole life, so they've obviously been really inspiring in those ways. But my grandmother grew up on a farm in Portugal, you know, pre-electricity, pre-running water, and moved to the US when she was 35 with 6 children. So the thought, now that I've gotten older, the thought of doing that at that age is terrifying to me. And not only to do that myself.
Not even that age, but with 6 children along, it's not like, hey, let me just pick up and try something new. It's like, I'm going to bring my whole family, and that's a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. So not only do that to myself, but to do that with 6 kids, you know, the stakes seem pretty high. So just to see the way she's navigated that and to see where she's at in her life now, the wisdom that she has is really inspiring. It makes my struggles feel, I won't say smaller, because, you know, we all feel things. Struggle feels the same to people, but it just makes me think again, like, okay, she went through that. She got through it. I can definitely get through this.
Christine, do you maybe want to tell us about women who inspire you?
My grandmother growing up, she quit her career because her first child was born with cerebral palsy. And back in the day, she was a full-time caretaker. There wasn't the healthcare technology and things like that. And she was really smart and had other aspirations, and she made sure she pushed myself and my cousin to go do the things she couldn't, which is pretty cool. And then someone I worked with many years ago, I won't say their name, they managed a very, very large purchasing department for a pretty big company. And in a similar type industry, male dominated, and she held her own very well, and she was always very thoughtful and just so smart, and never, just the way she carried herself was with so much tact and grace, and the respect she garnered was crazy. So as I was growing up in leadership, it was like someone I always looked towards, because there's those leaders who use power and fear and that. She just had this way, and her team loved her, respected her. I did, and I wasn't even on the team, and it was just you wanted nothing more than to look up to her. And I thought that was pretty cool. So two different points of view there.
You had mentioned the importance of mentorship. Was she a mentor to you?
She was, and interestingly enough, I mean, she was somewhat, and I think not a true build a one-on-one where, we're going to coffee every couple months and talking through things, but I think informally, those moments I got to pick her brain or see her how she thought was a degree of informal mentorship. I think we all learn from other people that we see, the good and the bad, and I think from her I was able to see a lot of the good. So I would define that as informal mentorship.
What advice would you give to women who are looking to find a mentor?
I think for everyone it's different, and it depends on their personality. It's not always that easy to go reach out and be like, hey, do you want to be my mentor? Like, especially if you're an introvert, like a normal introvert, but find someone that you think has qualities that you aspire, or that has a skill set that you find interesting, and just strike up a conversation, get out of your comfort zone and do it. And then after you start to build that relationship, have the conversation. A mentorship isn't necessarily a friendship, but you can't go get it without asking if there's not like a formal program. Sometimes it's just going and having a conversation.
No, I mean, that's definitely, like you said, it's a good way to start. I do have one more for you. You had talked about leadership and authority and that there's a difference between them. Would you mind telling me what the difference is in your eyes?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to articulate this. I think there are authority figures and folks who are put in positions, and they lead, or they believe they're leading using fear and their title and their position to drive results, or what they think is driving results. And then there's leadership, which is bringing people along for the ride. The team's first. You take a back seat for all the credit, but you are there. You are the shield when something goes wrong. And it's the extreme ownership piece. You're accountable for your team. That doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable as well, but you are accountable for that. You are accountable for how that team operates. You are accountable for how that team feels. And as a leader, you're there to remove those roadblocks. You're there to facilitate their success. And from the other side, from an authority figure, you use your title, and that's not the case. And it's everybody for themselves, and I think there's a big difference. And I've seen both. And I think we all have, probably, in our careers and our personal lives. And sometimes it takes a while to get there and to have a personal growth moment of understanding, especially as you're younger and you're growing up in leadership roles. You're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I get to, you get to boss people around, and that's not the case. And you learn you start to learn that it's definitely not the case. And it's pretty cool when you find someone who really embodies leadership characteristics, and has embraced that journey.
Nicole, I had a question for you. You had talked about the squeaky wheel gets the oil and how important it is to advocate for yourself. As women, that's sometimes hard for us to do. Sometimes we're afraid to ask.
Yeah, I think sometimes the reason self-advocacy can be hard is because sometimes it can feel like conflict, right? But I think really advocacy comes down to the understanding the power of influence and understanding how to tactfully do that. I wish I had better advice other than this has just kind of always been my personality growing up. My family jokes about it, but I've always been, they like to call it bossy. I like to call it advocating for myself. But I think it's just being really clear on what it is that you want and being really clear about explaining why it makes sense. I think that last piece is really, really important. I don't think going into advocating for whatever it is, whether it's in a work situation or a personal situation, without being able to explain that you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's and you understand why this makes sense, and getting people on board with that journey. I think that's a really critical part of it. But if I had my advice, it would be make sure you do your due diligence in that part so that when you go into the room to advocate for yourself, you feel confident in yourself and you feel confident in whatever it is that you're, looking to get the other people to agree with.
Maybe kind of adding to Nicole, it's like, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid to, don't think you don't deserve to, or that you're asking someone for a favor. There's a difference.
Yeah, my other advice would be to be direct and not to think you're taking up too much space. I often will say, or will catch myself, and I won't say things like, if you have a moment, or maybe I could. Just taking a moment to say, I need help with this. This is what I need, and this is what I'd like, and moving forward from there. I find editing myself is helpful.
I think that's something we all do, is that if you have a moment and it's just kind of ingrained in there, and it is something that we have to consciously think about and, like you said, edit.
I'll just add too on that topic. So the squeaky wheel gets the oil is something that my mom always told me. And I think ironically, it's because she's actually really shy and she wanted me to be different. But she also always said, like, the answer is always no if you don't ask. And then you're in the same spot where you started. So the only you only get a benefit out of it, right? If you get no, you're just in the same spot. So I think looking at it, framing it for that was also really helpful for me.
So if you were to think about where you are now, when you were younger, do you think you envisioned yourself being where you are now, in this role, in this profession?
I'm not sure about this industry. I know that, I would always want to be on a team. I would always want to be, coaching others. I would always want to kind of be in a place where I can help people be better at communicating with whoever they need to. I went to college for health and human services, so I think service has always been in the back of my head, and kind of getting people to understand themselves better. But I don't know if it would have been in the automotive industry. I wouldn't have thought of it then. But I'm glad I'm here.
I'll go because I think I make the least sense in this industry, in the best way, and I love it. I love that I'm here too. But I always joke because when I interviewed with our CEO, Scott, and after I verbally accepted, he was like, "What do you mean you never thought you'd work at a European car company when you've got your master's in public health?" So
All the time, right? That was at the
question,
top of the list of industries to go to.
yeah, that's where all my classmates went. So no, I didn't think I would ever end up in this industry. However, it's so serendipitous that I did, because the reason I got into public health was because my dad growing up had a lot of health issues that I kind of was helping him navigate. And so that's why I wanted to be on the prevention side of healthcare. And my dad growing up also worked in the automotive industry. He was a mechanic for a really long time, and then he was a service advisor at a car dealership. He also now in retirement is on the pit crew of a drag racing team. So, you know, I grew up adjacent to the automotive industry, going to car shows with him. He had a Porsche 944 it was a very special day if I got to go in it. So to end up in this industry, working in the wellness and health field is such a perfect fit for me, but I absolutely would never have dreamt that I would end up here. So that's why I think one thing I always tell people too is like, just trust the journey and try opportunities that come to you, because you really have no idea where it might lead you.
I actually went to school to be a chemical engineer, and I intended to be working in a lab somewhere doing research. And then out of school, I took a job literally unloading trucks for this small company importing clothes for Walmart. And that's where this whole kind of leadership thing came. I was that person who was like, oh, it's really fun to boss around a bunch of people in like mid-20s, like, this is awesome. And then kind of got into it. So no, I didn't think I'd go this route. And but now I wouldn't think of it any differently. For me, industry, it's industry agnostic unless it's something I have to believe in the company and the product. I couldn't work for someone who I didn't. And I believed in the leadership team here when I came over, and I thought that was interesting. And the people I met were pretty inspiring and open, and all in all, surprising I'm in this type of role and doing this at this point. Probably if I thought about it many, many, many moons ago, that wouldn't be the case, but happy I ended up on this path and ended up where I'm at.
So Nicole, you had mentioned your dad was into cars. He had the Porsche 944. What about you three? Are you into cars at all?
I really liked fast European cars, and I've had multiple BMWs. Then I moved to the South, and now I drive a Jeep. I soup
Jeeps
up
are fun.
mountain bikes. I build out mountain bikes instead of cars, but still like to go fast. Still love the look of European cars. Still like the classiness of it.
I'm in between projects right now. Behind me there's a picture of a Saab 9000. I had two Saab 9000s. I built we kind of put together the turbo like engine of a 95 with the transmission of a 96 for this, car that I recently had. But before that I had a black 9000 5-speed, and it was super fast, and I got the DO88 hoses and decked it all out. Unfortunately that car got fire, so that didn't end very well for that vehicle, but I am looking, and I love wrenching, but I'm in between at the moment.
Did that start once you came here to FCP, or was that always a thing?
Yeah, when I started working at Euro Parts, I got my first European car. It was a Saab 900 notchback, and then I was just like, okay, I drive Saabs now.
You're like, I like this.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool. It was rare, and it was, it went fast, and they were born from jets. I think that's just the coolest thing. They make airplanes and they make cars.
I see a common theme here. Everybody likes to go fast.
Yes.
Yeah, so my dad's my best friend, so I love all things that he does. So I always have liked cars by assimilation to him. However, he won't teach me to drive the Porsche, which is manual, for two reasons. The first one he says is because it has a turbo and I will blow the clutch. The second is because when I was on my way to my SATs, I backed into the Porsche and just kept going because I had important places to be. So that's my interaction with European cars to date. I'm on the Honda. I'm a Honda girl right now, but I have been eyeing the Volvo XC90. I would love to have one. I also learned that Volvo invented the seatbelt, so the public health girl in me is really into the Volvo game.
What kind of Honda?
I have a Honda Civic Coupe.
Okay. I today am driving a Honda Civic Si. It's my boyfriend's car, and that's actually how we met. He still has his Honda Prelude, but I had one ages ago, and a friend of ours, I met back when I had mine, and when I moved back from California, I was like, hey, I miss you guys. Let's get together. And our mutual friend brought my boyfriend, and that's how we met almost 10 years ago. So
Nice.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
my
so
Honda's
great.
done me well too, so.
Honda Civic girl here too. LX.
so what is it like working in a male-dominated industry?
Because I work directly with customers and directly with customer service team members who are also ladies, it is a little bit more, it is different for me. Sometimes I have to, have a thicker skin and, be unapologetic in the fact that I know my stuff. There's another, agent who actually worked with me at Euro Parts, and she's with us on the team now, and we're both ASE certified. We both know exactly what, to recommend. We know exactly, what's going on and how, how things work. And sometimes, customers might say, do you know anything about this particular vehicle? And we will say, yep. What do you want to know? So I think, sometimes taking things with a grain of salt is just par for the course. And knowing that, yeah, we got this. There's 4 women on the team, on the customer service team throughout different, channels, and we all know our stuff, and we can, get going.
Yeah, I would have to imagine a lot of times people would think you're a female, you probably don't know much. You're just, going off a script or just looking at parts and seeing what the catalog says.
Which is what the guys are doing too. They're looking up the parts and confirming they fit the vehicle. And, I think sometimes it's just knowing that that's what they're expecting. And then also it's exciting to kind of show my colors too and be like, nope, I got this. Oh, you
Prove them wrong.
you need a control arm? You have 4 in the front end. Like, which one do you need? Upper, lower, forward, rearward? Like, I got this.
I'm sure that definitely throws them off when they're like, wait, what do you mean there's 4? They're like, how do you know that? And I don't know that about my own car.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
So supply chain has typically in any industry has been male dominated. It's usually the old supply chain with a lot of manufacturing, logistics, that side of it. And I've found that at times it can be a little odd. I mean, I went to, this is my first, AWDA out in Las Vegas, and walked into a room and maybe like 4% women. So that can be intimidating, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you own your role, if you're confident in what you do, there's no reason why anything should be any different. And you're fair, you're consistent, you're having good conversations, you're backing them up with data, what anyone should do. I think in most areas it's fine. Of course, there's those moments when people look at you like, what are you doing in this room?
Why are you here?
And then similar to Andrew, what you said, it's like, you start having a conversation, it's like, oh, wow. And sometimes you get these looks of like, oh. And it's like, there's like this slinking in the seat of like, I misjudged. And sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's still people who, no matter what, have this view that in certain industries, certain departments, women don't belong.
Yeah.
And we're not going to change that. And that's okay. And you ignore it and you do your job and you be very good at what you do and you drive results and you ignore that. And you kind of prove people wrong. I don't like to say it's a chip on the shoulder because it's not, but sometimes it becomes that.
Mhm.
but it is a struggle at times. It's not as much now as it once was.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely opening up a little bit more as more women are getting into different fields and as we're pushing women into STEM and STEAM more. And, we're starting to branch out into those male only roles and showing them we can do it too.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I obviously can only really speak to the experience I've had, but coming from roles previously where my directors were always women, the organizations I worked at were, I want to say, probably 90% women. I had a certain perspective and a certain experience in those. And so coming here to FCP Euro and in coming to an industry that is male dominated, it's actually taught me and it's challenged a lot of biases that I held about gender roles in the workplace and in industries, right? Like I definitely had some preconceived concerns about how an organization and industry of car enthusiasts were going to take to the idea of a wellness program and a wellness manager. And those are just concerns I had, right? I was like, am I going to fit in? Are people going to appreciate this outside of the traditional public health sector that I was really working in, right? So that's, I think, what I've personally gained from it is checking myself too and the biases that I hold and just going in and doing my job. And to Christine's point, being confident about what I bring to the table, regardless of who's at the table, right? I can't control that. I can only control, have I done my due diligence? Am I feeling good about what I'm bringing? And I think working in a male-dominated industry in a role that isn't traditional or that not all organizations maybe always understand the value of, it's made me think more deeply about how do I explain the value and how do I show up in a way that helps other people see the value too, and how do I drive results to keep that going? So that's what I think working in a male-dominated industry has done for me personally and professionally.
So we touched a little bit on this, but what advice would you give other women who work in male-dominated industries?
I guess just continue to go after your goals, work your process, be confident, and don't let what's around you or other people's judgment stop you from doing what you want to do and making an impact.
I like that.
Also, I think making your support system really strong so that you can, if you do have an issue or if you do need help, you have someone to go to. Making your needs known and being okay with asking for help, it's really hard. It really is. Being vulnerable is the hardest thing. It's not
Definitely.
fun,
No,
but being okay with not being okay is the name of the game.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I've touched on it a bit, but reminding yourself that it's not about who's at the table, it's about what you're bringing to it, right? Or the meeting or whatever context it is. And also, I think, understanding that you don't have to be 100% perfect the first time you do it, right? I think a lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves, especially if we're the only one of that type of person in the room. You have this feeling that you need to be perfect at it, but you don't. Confidence is built by action and by repeated things that you do, and you get better every single time. So, giving yourself that grace and that room to grow and learn, I think, is really important.
We don't get to where we are without having to be in situations and learning and taking what we've learned from that experience and moving forward with it. So what benefits have you received from your leadership experience?
I'll share. While I was in grad school, I was part of a local professional organization for public health, right? So similar to, I think Christine, you mentioned AWDA. So that similar organization, but in the public health world. And I actually ended up taking a leadership role in the local chapter. And so that was an experience for me that allowed me to kind of navigate and learn leadership skills in what I felt like was a lower stakes environment, right? I think sometimes in a professional context, you are a little bit more worried about how you're performing and how people are perceiving you and things like that. And so in a volunteer-based leadership organization, I was able to kind of learn from people in a closer, who were in the same field and had been in the field for longer, and learn how to delegate, learn how to schedule and run meetings, learn how to take action items from meetings and follow up with people and things like that. And so I think that helped me build my confidence for how to apply those skills in a professional setting, which has been really helpful.
That low pressure environment helps gain the experience and build confidence so that you can use it in more high pressure situations.
I joined a Slack group called Customer Experience Accelerator earlier this year. And it's just been a lot of like information about customer experience and how to, pay attention to what the customer wants and things like that. And I think also just that helped me learn how to grow my network, which is actually really exciting. It like I said before, it is kind of scary to be vulnerable and do more things, but I think that has helped me in my role because I've been trying new things with service recovery or with other initiatives in the customer service realm.
So we'll do a couple of fun questions just to finish out. If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Share.
Why?
Oh, so many things I have to ask her. I have so many questions. We are going to talk about skincare for like 4 hours. And we're going to do a plank together. And yeah, me and Cher forever. Cher and Andrea for president.
You guys have my vote.
Yes. I'll let her know.
All right, I guess I'll go. I didn't think this question through. I'm going to go a different way. I'm a sports junkie too, so I think having lunch with Serena Williams would be pretty cool. Just overcame diversity and was just a total badass and did it her way, her terms. And like, yeah, I think that would just be fun on so many levels.
It's funny because whenever I'm like watching an interview or watching a movie, I'm like, that's the person. The next time you get this question, remember this person. And then I always forget it. So I feel like this is not the most exciting, and I've already touched on it, but I think I would just have lunch with my grandmother. I just love spending time with her so much. She's going to be 90 next year, so time with her is so valuable. And I grew up in a different state from her, so I just always cherish our time so much. It feels like really quality time. So that's probably who my pick would be.
Plus, I mean, I'm sure you still have so many stories to hear or experiences to hear about from her. So it's a great pick just to learn more about where you came from and what she's been through and more ways for her to inspire you.
Totally. And I mean, she's a pretty great cook, so it's always a good excuse for some Portuguese food.
I mean, that's always a plus. And then I guess my last question for you ladies, and we can wrap up for the evening, is what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
There are so many ways I could play this. I think the advice that I would give to myself when I was 18 is even if things don't turn out the way that you are expecting them to, it's the way it's supposed to happen. Also wear sunscreen.
I tell that to myself every day, and then I put the top down on my car and then I start driving and I'm like, oh, it'll be a quick trip. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm sunburnt.
Don't worry, I'll email you a link.
I think there's like two things that come to mind. The first is like kind of similar to what Andrea was saying. If you're presented with an opportunity, try it, because even if you hate it, you've learned something and you've learned where you don't want to be. So it's a really good way for you to take out an option that you might have thought you wanted to explore. So, and conversely, if it works out, it might not have been something you ever thought you wanted to do. So I always like to say, like, if something is presented to you, give it a try. Another one is, I think, don't stress about being perfect. No, literally nobody is perfect, and nobody expects you to do something perfectly all the time. Striving for that is an admirable thing and wonderful to do, but there's a lot of pressure with trying to be perfect too. So I would just remind myself that is not a human reality.
Well, I guess I gotta go. I guess one, when I think about it, is don't be afraid to do the things you're uncomfortable doing or that make you uncomfortable, because guess what? You're going to end up liking it and be really good at it down the road. And two is, I echo what Nicole said, and kind of build on it. It's don't worry about being perfect, but also don't worry about what other people think about it. Just do your journey and not care, because sometimes as we're younger, we get really caught up in what other people think, and it can impact that journey in negative ways. So just own your journey and do it.
Yeah.
And don't look to the sides. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, share your thoughts, ideas, perspectives, wisdom. We've definitely had a lot of wisdom shared, and I appreciate all of it. And I look forward to seeing some of you at upcoming events.
well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thanks. Definitely see you soon.
Yay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.